world are you?
Hmm. Um, India,
You're in India.
yes, and at an Ayurvedic wellness retreat.
Wow.
I think this, I think this is day number 6, and I'm here for 28 days, but I might extend it a little bit because I'm learning so much and it's so cool, and it just, I'm fascinated. So I don't know. We'll see.
Wow. Maya, so glad you're back.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Um, Shannon's on. Good to have you with us, Shannon. Welcome, welcome. Maya, I'm going to actually put a link in the chat for you. It is the link to the 3 E's freebie for new attendees. We didn't get it to you last week, but I want to make sure that we get that to you now while we're waiting for Blair to get all things rolling, unless you are, Blair.
We are live on YouTube, but I am not live with my video for tonight. I can't find it exactly, which is frustrating the pants off me. So anyway, I'm not quite sure. I've got plan B here. Can you hear me?
That's we.
Okay.
Right. Do you want us
Yes.
to go ahead and do announcements while you're looking for that?
Leisure tractor funny.
What? Okay, yeah, might as well get started.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Maya. I'll do a workaround on that. Appreciate it. We'll get that too. All right.
Okay.
And I'm good to go as well.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just kick things off tonight with just a couple announcemements that Blair has available. There are 2 books on Amazon, The Ultimate Mind Hacking and The Phobia Freedom Formula. Those are both books that go a little bit deeper into the different mind models, how to work with phobias, fears, and the kind of the science behind that, and the Phobia Freedom Formula. Both are extremely fascinating books. You can search for either Blair Dunkley on Amazon or search for by title, and highly recommend. We have both the books, read them. They're excellent. Also, as Blair introduced last week, we have the Mind Mastery magazine, which is pretty cool. We shared that last week. You can grab the link. I think we shared it last week. I will find it tonight and share it again, hopefully. But oh, it's in the chat. There you go. And anyway, pretty cool stuff there. And it's amazing what we can do with technology and stuff to get this work out. So Blair's got those available. Also, if you want to, if you're out there on YouTube and you'd like to join us live here on the Blair Dunkley Experience, there is the link here on your screen, the go.rewiringthemind.com/weekly-webinar. We'd actually love for you to join us here live. That's where you actually can experience the Blair Dunkley Experience and get the most out of the mind models, ask your questions, and really lean into this experience. We are here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain and 9 p.m. Eastern. So come join us live. And with that, I want to officially kick things off for tonight. This is the 393rd episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience. This is our mind model community, excuse me, where we discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. They were researched and tested for 17 plus years. Mind models are consistently proven to work 80% of the time. And mind model definitions are behavioral, not academic. They are process based. And for this reason, we lean into the experiential piece that I talked about just a minute ago. Regardless of how long you work with the mind models, there is more depth to explore with these. And as has been mentioned many times here on the Blair Dunkley experience, even Blair experiences this after 50 years of his own work. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of the mind models. We are Tim and Becky Graff, your co-hosts and certified mind model coaches, along with the amazing Patty McClurg. The Blair Dunkley experience is Blair's free gift to you and is an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice these mind models in a safe real-world environment. Mind models have impacted every area of Becky and I's life. In business, they've made us more effective and confident. In our marriage, they've helped us resolve an 8-year issue that we had within just a few hours of actually going through mind model coach training. And when we lost both of our daughters tragically back in 2020, these tools gave us the strength to navigate the grief, PTSD, and it gave us the capacity to recover more quickly than we ever thought was possible. Mind models have increased our effectiveness, our resilience, and the ability to move forward without going through any traditional counseling. We look forward to learning with you guys tonight on the Blair Dunkley experience and officially welcome you to the 393rd episode. With that, I want to pass it over to Patty real quick for well, it looks like, okay, so for our leftovers, and Patty actually does have that 3's freebie gift, which I think Becky shared as well. So
Yes.
I guess I should also,
Oh, go ahead.
the 3E's freebie gift. Right now, I've been working on my websites, and for some reason, it's not connected. So I
Should-
just want to share that with you guys.
We'll get it for you though, Maya.
Yeah.
Yes, the 3E's is a master's class in the foundational concepts of the mind models. We talk about the 3E's a lot. They stand for effective versus ineffective, external versus internal, and evaluation versus judgment. And those, even though all my models have been tested at a minimal effectiveness of 80%, the 3E's test higher than that. So that's, if you've got those, you can do anything. The rest.
Well, not quite, but yes, a lot.
Okay. 99% of stuff. Right? So the rest of this is like, let's just tweak it here and look at it differently, which I love, but there are probably over 149 models. And eventually they come back down to those 3. So we would really like for you to have that master's class, and we will get it for you. So please hang in there with us. So we have leftovers every time we have a program. We've been doing something called a Foundational Awareness Level 1 series. And this is a series that has to do with I'm blanking.
What? Safety versus comfort.
No, safety versus comfort is tonight, but the Foundational Awareness series level 1 is basically looking at the single concepts that we use and we layer. So we're taking one a week and we have them for a while, starting back with the middle of March with curiosity. So every time we give a practice experience, and last week's practice experience, because the show was describing feelings through awareness, noticing, naming, and labeling. And we gave a 5-step process, but we'd like to hear from you if you have been able to try those and test those and see what came up for you. Sativa, welcome. So I know, Brent, you were here last week. Did anything come up for you with the practice experience? Anything new with describing feelings?
Not so much new. but I did realize that it's so much easier to identify like the I would say negative side, like emotions where your frustration and that stuff comes out real strong, you know. And
Mhm.
I was working on something and I got extremely frustrated and it got me into like as you know a little bit of a why state there for a
Mhm.
few minutes. I was like I you know shouted. I was like, what the heck is going on? How come you're not working? So I was
Mhm.
like, hold on a second here. This is whoop. As soon as that came out, I was able to I right away I noticed that right away and I was aware. I was like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. Like during the state, I kind of tell I was frustrated. You know, I was getting it wasn't, you know, there wasn't clarity. You know, as you get that frustration build up, you get a little, the mind becomes a little bit of a blurry. You know, thinking
Mhm.
isn't as
Mhm.
clear. You're not calm. Like everything seems a little more chaotic inside,
Mhm.
maybe externally, but inside as well.
Mhm.
So I don't know,
So you could
notice
feel
that, but as
it,
soon
you
as the
could
words
feel
came
that
out,
in your
it was,
body. You could feel it in your body, just not just in your
yeah,
mind.
yeah, the tensing up, and then in my head, like in my brain, it just felt like it was cloudy and chaotic. You know, it was
Mhm.
hard to
What
get
did you
clarity. So
do? What did you do to bring yourself clarity?
I took a break. Left, went away, took about 10 minutes and just went outside, stayed there and, you know, was working on not thinking about what it was I was doing. So just kind of blank and just relax. And then I went back and I was calm and I was like, oh, okay, that really cleared up my brain. It still felt a little bit on, like in my chest and my body, a little bit of the
Mhm.
frustration, but I was able to think clearly and be calm.
So changing your environment and getting up and moving
Hmm.
was helpful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate your sharing. Maya, did you get a chance to play with practicing noticing and awareness with feelings?
Not so consciously, but I did have an event, or I guess a few events that happened last week that normally would have activated me a lot more. And
Okay.
um, and I was pretty peaceful around it. So I don't know if that was a residual of last week's session or I'm guessing it might have played a part.
Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your sharing. And with that, we're going to go into Blair's video. Were you able to find that, Blair?
I did. I've got it up and
Okay,
ready
so
to
we're
go.
going to go into Blair's video next.
Super. So tonight we're going into the area of safety versus comfort, I think I said.
Yeah.
And that's episode 393. And we're getting really close to episode 400. That's a lot of episodes. Anyway, with that said, I need to hit my share button and optimize for sound and for video. And we shall get that going. And you should be seeing that now on your screen. And here we go.
You're sitting in a standard meeting room. Your boss asks for your opinion on a project, or maybe someone gives you mild feedback. Suddenly, your heart rate spikes, your palms sweat, and your chest tightens. You aren't actually under attack, but your body reacts as if a predator just walked into the room. This happens because of a biological glitch. The human brain seamlessly confuses the internal feeling of being uncomfortable with the external reality of being in physical danger. To untangle this, we have to look closely at two very different concepts, starting with safety. Safety is a strict, objective, external physical reality. It means you are verifiably free from a threat to your life or body. Comfort, on the other hand, is completely internal. It is a subjective emotional perception. It's that feeling of familiarity, ease, and a general lack of friction in your environment. Because your nervous system instinctively reacts the same way to a hit to your ego as it does to a physical threat, relying strictly on how you feel is a biologically flawed way to navigate reality. This chart shows the safety comfort matrix. We hear the term emotional safety constantly in modern workplace cultures, but behaviorally, emotional safety is actually just a mislabel for comfort. If you are walking down a dark, isolated alley at 2 in the morning, your internal perception of discomfort perfectly matches the external reality. You are both uncomfortable and unsafe. Now look at the bottom left. This is where you initiate a difficult conversation with a manager. You feel intense internal friction, but externally, there is zero threat to your physical body. When you treat this bottom left scenario as a lack of safety, you trigger a false biological alarm. Your body prepares to fight or flee a threat that doesn't exist, actively working against your professional goals. If your goal is to spend your life exclusively in the bottom right quadrant, safe and totally comfortable, you have to actively avoid all calculated risks, hard conversations, and necessary conflicts. Prioritizing this falsely named emotional safety doesn't protect you. It severely limits your effectiveness and ensures long-term stagnation. The moment you verbally label a difficult interaction as emotionally unsafe, your brain obliges by flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline. That chemical rush gives you a highly convincing biological excuse to escape the room. The trade-off is steep. Cortisol actively shuts down your neurological ability to form new memories, learn new information, or listen deeply to anyone else. Instead of processing the moment, you retreat into an internal narrative loop called a why-hole. This is where you focus entirely on past-based reasons, excuses, and placing blame on others for your discomfort. Entering a why-hole traps you in an ineffective judgment state. You burn an immense amount of emotional energy, but accomplish zero actual forward movement. If you prioritize total comfort to avoid that anxiety every single time, the long-term result is a permanent stuck state. You effectively build yourself a virtual padded box. Compare that to deliberately walking into an environment that is externally safe, but internally highly uncomfortable. By making that choice, you force yourself to endure intense, temporary neurological friction and stress. That exact friction is the sole biological catalyst for expanding your baseline comfort zone and building true resilience. The choice is binary. You can opt for immediate relief, followed by a shrinking comfort zone, or you can accept short-term stress that yields immense long-term capacity. This chart outlines the verification protocol. To override false panic signals, you need an objective mental tool. Following a stress response, your brain diverges down one of two paths. It can either retreat into internal narrative, or it can analyze external data. To force yourself down path B, use the videotape test. Ask yourself, if there were a physical camera in this room, what specific threats would it actually record? Look only for observable cues, raw sensory data, and environmental logic. This test forces you to search the room for externally verifiable threats, intentionally filtering out your internal emotional feelings. Running this specific diagnostic forcefully shifts your brain out of its emotional past and future loop. By processing objective environmental data, you return your mind to a present moment logical processing state. The trade-off is effort. It takes immense conscious willpower to rationally evaluate a room while your nervous system is screaming at you to flee. But successfully isolating the lack of a physical threat turns off the false cortisol alarm. It allows you to stay resourceful and communicative, even if you remain deeply uncomfortable. How you apply this videotape test depends entirely on the specific behavioral trap keeping you stuck. Take the conflict avoidant profile. Your trap is retreating from hard conversations and pointing fingers at others to explain away your internal anxiety. If this is you, the protocol serves as a strict reality check. It forces you to stop blaming external factors and accept total ownership of your discomfort. Then there is the growth optimizer. Your trap involves hitting a plateau and misinterpreting the intense friction of that moment as a signal you are making a dangerous choice. As an optimizer, you must use the protocol to rationally calculate risk. Ask yourself if the threat is highly probable and if the data gained is worth the cost of the attempt. Regardless of your specific goal, the underlying mechanism is identical. You are using objective data to conquer internal perception. There is a critical caveat to this framework. These tools are explicitly designed for navigating internal emotional resistance and professional or social friction. If you run the videotape test and observe verifiable physical threats like abuse or physical danger, the situation is a true safety issue, not comfort. In a genuine safety scenario, the correct biological response is immediate removal from the environment. You do not endure physical danger for the sake of personal growth. Comfort is an instinct built for survival and familiarity. But when you are externally safe, experiencing discomfort is not a warning sign of failure. It is the mandatory currency required for human growth.
So there we go. I love the last line. Mandatory is the currency that is mandatory for human growth. You know, you have to get uncomfortable to change. And if you don't get uncomfortable, you don't really change. Anyway, sorry, I don't have my
It's off
notes
to
up.
unless
Who's
you have
up?
something else.
Oh, go
Tim.
for it, Becky.
I'm gonna default to Tim. Go ahead.
Oh, right. It is Tim.
Sure. All right. So I am curious, Maya, what did you take away from the video?
Well, I also like that last part, and I was really thinking about, where do I embrace the discomfort knowing, that there's something greater on the other side. Like, especially like when I think I'm having a breakdown, I've learned to see it as, okay, I'm right on the verge of a breakthrough. So there's something good coming. So being able to tolerate those uncomfortable spaces.
Okay. And how did you understand safety?
Well, safety it's kind of linked to how we're labeling what's going on as well. So if we start labeling something as being unsafe, then our body might start to, have the chemical responses to it. And so really looking to see if that's a story I'm telling myself, or is there a real threat there in the external versus what's going on in my head?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I want to, and we'll actually pop this in the chat too, but just the distinctions between safety and comfort. Safety is an external physical, it's what's real. It's a threat to your physical body in the physical environment. And that's safety. I mean, there's not much more to safety other than it is an external threat that can physically do you harm. Right now, in the room where you're at, is the roof going to fall on your head? Is the house on fire? Like that kind of thing. Is there a physical threat? Comfort is all the other area there, and there's different levels of comfort. We can be in extreme discomfort. We can be slightly uncomfortable, or we couldn't be in a comfortable situation. And it's when we lean into those discomfort moments that we really grow. Um, did you want to?
I was just thinking about myself. I'm going through a dental challenge. And so, that could be viewed as something that is potentially unsafe because I might need to get a tooth extracted. I don't know, but it's a possibility. I'm going through that. But I definitely know that all of that is going to be moderate to very uncomfortable. I currently don't have any pain with it, so I'm not motivated to get it extracted, but it could get worse and the issues could multiply. So now I have to balance out that pain pleasure response and comfort response, which that pain pleasure response is all about comfort and not about safety. And I have to make sure that I'm not reacting to this in terms of comfort being confused with safety. Because the safest thing might be just to get it pulled. But the discomfort, do I really want to go through that? But getting that kind of clarity gives me more, a truer way to evaluate the situation. Anyway, I thought I'd throw that in there, Tim.
Well, and the just thinking through that, at least where my head went was it's really about the right now, the present moment that you're in, and how that safety and comfort is playing out right now. Because I mean, technically, the idea of having that tooth pulled, yes. But right now, it's just a discomforting idea. You're not actually in any physical danger. And
Or
so,
pain.
right. And so it really comes down to walking through this process in the RFN, in the present moment as you're going through it. And so where it really tips over into the safety issues when you're actually like in the moment having the tooth pulled, there's a situation where, it can get worse.
But even at that, playing devil's advocate, is it truly safety or is it still comfort?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, when we think about like how do we actually tease out the difference between the two and how we behave in our world, I'd love to pose the question, how do you know you're actually unsafe? How do you know that you're actually unsafe? How does that show up? What's going on? What are some indicators? Patty, for you,
I was just thinking if I can identify a threat, if I can identify a threat to my safety, so I can name and label it, I can see it, I can take it in through my senses. For me, I went a lot of years having a very difficult time with the dark. And there were times when even walking from the house, before we had a garage, walking from the house out to my car was really, 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 it was just terrifying to go out to my car and get into my car. And at the same time, the dark was in and itself not unsafe. And when I was out there, could I see a threat? Was there any active threat? And the answer to that is no. All of that fear was going on in my head. And so I had to talk to myself and say, okay, nothing is happening here. Nothing. You're walking to your car. That's all you're doing, walking to your car. And so that video camera test they referred to in Blair's video, if there were a video camera, they would not see any identifiable threat. So from an external perspective, if I looked like a third eye looking, there's nothing that they would see. There's nothing that I could see. There was nothing that touched or damaged my body in any way. And so I was incredibly uncomfortable, but I was never unsafe. And I can think of really very, very few times in my life where I've actually been unsafe. More like potential driving accidents, like a deer running across in front of my car, that is difficult to avoid. Those kinds of things. But otherwise, there's very little in my life that causes me to be unsafe. A lot that causes me to be uncomfortable.
thank you for sharing, Patty. Have you noticed the scale of discomfort for yourself? Have you started to become more aware of what that scale is since you learned the distinction between safety and comfort?
I really have. I'm not getting the physical response like to the dark. I don't get the same physical response to that I used to get. And again, so many of these things are wired through past experiences. And those experiences are over. That was then, this is now. Not the same thing. And so looking at it and letting myself know that I really am just uncomfortable. And this is not going to hurt me. To challenge that discomfort is not going to do me damage. It's going to give me space to grow and space to build new self-confidence by having some successful experiences.
Awesome. Hey, welcome, Michael. In case you missed it, our topic tonight is the difference between safety and comfort and its impact on how we behave, is how I'm going to capture that. Because when we are not clear on the distinction between the two, the way that we behave, it gets a little bit wonky, muddled, messy, and we may find ourselves behaving in a way that might be surprising. So I'm curious, Shannon, you looked very thoughtful in your writing. Do you have anything that came up for you with the video or what we've discussed thus far?
Maybe off topic, but what I've been noodling on in my own mind, just as I have been sifting through the types of experiences that are out there and that I have heard other people talk to me about, and a physical threat, there are really clear, types of physical threats that we all think about. Where would you categorize something like verbal abuse? Because it's not something that you would put on a video camera, but it does actually damage the person's brain. Do you know
Hold
what I
it.
mean in that
Can
way?
you videotape verbal abuse?
I guess if you're going for audio, yes, but I was just
Well,
like
no,
taking it
it's
very
not just
literally.
video. Like, I
Oh no,
mean,
you're okay.
videotaping is audio and video together. If you can take
Yeah,
it and record it, it's
the
extremely
facial
verifiable.
expressions and the muscles of the
Well, no, you
experience.
can hear the words too.
Yeah.
Now, you have to be able to understand, and this is the hair splitting here.
Mm-hmm.
Is there intent for harm behind it? If there's intent for harm, somebody's trying to knock you down emotionally, then is that physical abuse? Or, sorry, verbal abuse? Yes. But it's one of the ones that you can defend against mentally.
Okay.
When I was at Life Skills College, there was a lot of times that our students were very angry at us.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing our very best to keep them healthy, happy, and in some cases, literally alive because they were potentially suicidal. 80% of our students were potentially suicidal. So we knew that those were issues there. But that's where intent comes in. Is that person's intention to harm me, or are they misdirecting anger that would normally be at themselves at an outside source?
Are you talking about someone like a situation that comes to mind would be someone says something hurtful, the person tries to say, "Hey, that wasn't cool," and then they deflect it off to, "Well, I was just joking," and blow it off
No,
and
I'm talking about
continue
somebody
to.
saying something that is hurtful, and then I get to be able to say, is that hurtful intention? Like, are they intending to do? Okay, perfect. I'll give you a real world example.
Okay.
So I'm out there helping somebody and trying to help them do things, and I literally give them a positive compliment.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turn around in a very angry tone and tell me, and you're just paid to say that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not paid to be nice. I'm
Mm-hmm.
paid to instruct. I'm paid to shift people. And so that could have been an attack directly at me. If I so choose to take it that way, if I hear it that way, somebody is accusing me of not being honest, of
Mm-hmm.
lying. But that is something that's different.
Yeah.
I'm not actually there to create a nice environment for somebody. I'm there to help them grow. And then I have to assert myself back into that argument, but in a way that is firm, but not beating them up, but showing them their attack on me is not warranted, but without defending myself. I don't need to defend myself. And usually the way that I do that is by literally saying nothing.
It takes the gas out of the fire.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to say anything. And that just lets them deflate.
So when you're communicating with individuals who are on some level being verbally abused, how do you help them and their brains distinguish the difference? Because the threat is very different than someone throwing a punch because it's verbal, it's not tangible. And
Correct.
so
So
how
what
do you coach someone to a healthy state of mind when something actually is happening where your unkindness is being spewed forth and no pivot is available?
is there any need for you to defend yourself when somebody is being verbally abusive? Some people feel absolutely compelled to respond every single time.
I'm not saying
And
necessarily a response. I'm
well,
more of
okay,
just
2
thinking about the
seconds.
damage that it does to the person who continues to receive it and how to help them.
I understand, but the point there is the person who's receiving it, are they okay, this is not going to sound wonderful, but it is what I would do is teach somebody how to figure out when somebody is being verbally abused,
Mhm.
verbally only. Who has the problem? Who owns the problem? Do you, because you're being verbally abused, or is the abuser the person with the true problem?
It's them with the problem.
Correct. So if you can make that discernment, then you're 3/4, not just halfway there, you're 3/4 of the way there because now you can shift it away. Oh, they're appearing to attack me, and I can choose to receive that as a direct attack, or I can see that as a cry for help.
So it really comes down to self-confidence then and having
Bingo,
the tools to frame it
bingo.
and to be able to identify what, like to name and label what is happening to you so that you can
Absolutely.
then be like, that's a them problem and
That's
move
right.
on. Okay. It's just it's a part of the spectrum we don't talk about a lot. Where when we're trying to create really clear delineations between I'm super uncomfortable, but I'm not unsafe, or the safety. I just there's some stuff in the middle that feels gray, and it's not something that we discuss often, but it is something that I've had brought into my path recently that I was noodling on.
Okay.
Um,
Um, Quite a few years ago, I was up in a fly-in community in northern Canada negotiating between sides. It was between two clans. It was on a reserve. And these two clans had had a 17-year-old fetal alcohol syndrome boy rape a nurse of the opposite clan. And those two clans had a blood feud where blood feuds are where somebody dies. Um, been going for at least 1,000 years, a millennium, at least they were aware of. Like that's what the elders told me. And on both sides, by the way. And so my job was to try and get the community down and do this whole thing, figure it out, and move forward, which I did successfully. But at the end of the day, I needed to know this mind model as people from one clan in particular were driving on skidoos past the place that I was staying, which was a very small hotel. It was a probably 10 by, no, not 10 feet, but 20 by 30-foot rectangular building that had a bedroom, a small kitchen, and a bathroom in it. That was it. Built for 40 below, 50 below weather, and lots of insulation and bullets could go right through the place if they so chose to. But the people which were driving by were holding 30-06s, like chick, chick, boom, like quick shoot and kill type of stuff. I needed to go. Am I actually unsafe here? Am I at risk? Nobody was holding a gun. Nobody was pointing a gun. They were lifting the gun, making sure I could see that they had a gun. Was it did they want to threaten? Yes, they were doing a damn good job of it, I might add. But at the same time, was that necessarily a truly unsafe situation? Because I could have also called the RCMP. But if I wanted to escalate the thing, I could have. But at the same point in time, was I way more uncomfortable than I was unsafe? And I go, yeah, I was at a 9 out of 10 for discomfort. And my safety was probably, honestly, a 3 or a 4. So, because I could see the faces of those people, and I had talked to one of the two on the Skidoo, so I knew that they were relatively level-headed. But that's okay. I can. The risk was there was risk, but was there lack of pure safety? Not quite yet, but it was getting awfully close.
Yeah.
But knowing that I was really uncomfortable saved me from panicking.
Did you have any trust in any, because if you said risk, which made me think of the triangle.
Yep.
Did you have any trust in anyone in that situation?
Yeah, one of the two people on the Skidoo I'd spoken to earlier. And
Okay.
so they seemed relatively level-headed, mostly. So I go, okay.
Did that trust give you a greater threshold for the extreme discomfort you experienced?
No, not for the extreme discomfort. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay.
But for the recognition and the discernment between, am I actually unsafe?
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what it gave me the credit. Their demeanor when I talked to them gave me a perception of intention to intimidate, to try and make things go the way that they wanted it to go, which was, let's go hunt down this kid and leave him out there because there won't be any evidence 48 hours later, because the animals will just devour the carcass and there may be a belt buckle or something like that, but that's about it. So, and by the way, the guy that flew me out there was also the best hunter and tracker in the community, and there were caribou up in the area, and it was a whole caribou economy, and he was by far and away the best, and he found the kid and brought him back in and shipped him off, and he wasn't connected to either of the clans. Well, there were 4 clans up there, and he was in one of the 2 that were not directly involved. Anyway, the kid got shipped off, flown out the next day on a flight by the RCMP. So anyway, so that was my absolutely needed application of safety versus comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I was going to say, I think of a couple times, Blair, where I have heard stories where safety versus comfort, was in play here. I also think about when you were in the max lockdown prison.
Oh, yeah.
And, and those guys wanted to take you hostage. I mean, there was.
Well, no, that's an exaggeration. They didn't actually want to. They said that they would, but nobody acted on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I just called their bluff. And
Yeah,
go ahead, make your point.
I just gonna say I can imagine that there was a moment of safety versus comfort that ran through your head in that moment, and that I mean I'm totally making an assumption here, but I'm making the assumption that helped you stay level-headed in that moment. Is that accurate?
Yeah, because I didn't even when they were saying, let's take Blair as a hostage. That was the second time I'd been in the group and we'd done an entire 3 hour life skills. And I came back the next week and then this happened. And I had a bit of a relationship with them. They were nice guys for the most part. Yes, they had all been convicted of murder, some more than once. Uh, but the long and the short of it was I never actually felt unsafe. I felt uncomfortable. And then driving home is when I really freaked out because my mind went into the future of woulda, coulda, shouldas, or woulda, couldas, and that could have happened. This could have happened. And that's when my brain kicked into gear and I literally started shaking from fear, which I didn't experience there. And that's one of the lessons where future events appearing real is fear, F-E-A-R, future events appearing real. It's not in this lesson, but I just added it. And that was me going into the future big time and freaking out. And my body was shaking. And I quite literally had to
Well,
pull over and calm myself down.
and I would think it's fair to say that in the moment, people who don't ask the question, who don't know the difference between safety and comfort, that is actually where they go more often than not, is into a future
Yep.
event. Here's very real. That fight, flight, or freeze, or a fawn, it kicks in, and their mind immediately goes there automatically. So being able to have this distinction, be able to look at, okay, am I safe? Am I just extremely uncomfortable right now? Um, helps you stay in the present in that moment. And that's how come I was saying earlier, it's very situational, very in the moment, very present thing. Because in the moment, you were able to laugh it off, to work with what needed to be worked with in the moment in the prison. But as
Well,
soon
hold
as
it. Now, again, I gotta say, I didn't laugh it off because laughing at them would have been
yeah,
not safe. That
well,
would
I,
have
I
been
guess I was meaning that
provoking.
for more of an internal.
Yeah, right. Okay. For me, it was okay, just I am safe. Let's just keep it there and call their bluff. Because if they were going to do something, they wouldn't have done it 5 minutes after, they would have, well, actually, it was longer than that, more like 10 or 15 minutes afterwards, when one of the guys said, we could take Blair as a hostage. And I said, like, come on, guys. If you had any sort of plan to take me as a hostage, that would have happened in the first 5 seconds. And I looked around the group, said, is that right or is that right? And they go, yeah, that's right. Like I just called their bluff. That's
So
it.
would you say, Blair, that your own skills, like if we're gonna nitpick at something, would your own skill set increase your safety in a situation? Like we had talked with Shane quite a while ago, like he's a rancher, so
Yeah.
his skill with animals increases his ability to be safe around them. There are still situations, clearly, that can bring danger into his path, but how does someone's ability or skill impact safety versus comfort?
Well,
Well,
it's significant. I mean, it really is. I mean, um, I like getting trained. I like doing my research on things. Okay, so I don't like putting things in my body that are inherently harmful without a massive upside of benefit. Okay, so these are things that are just there, medications of all sorts and types. So that's one of those things here that I pay attention to. So getting informed and practicing, especially with skills, is okay. I've been in situations where I have seen and experienced um, exacerbation, like problems blowing up when somebody buys into the argument that somebody starts asserting themselves because the other person is attacking back out of fear. And now you have something to fight against. Now it becomes a dominance issue, not Well, it is safety because this person perceives that they're in control. This person perceives that they are unsafe, so they have to attack. Okay? And that unfortunately happens frequently in abuse scenarios. And one of the ways that abuse scenarios manifest is by going absolutely silent, which can be very um, provocative for some people. You can provoke by going silent, just, cause people to blow up. And I've talked to lots of abusees that provoke when they've been pushed, they get back by giving that person the silent treatment, which just pisses them off. Anyway, these are all issues that have to be assessed. And so being able to assess yourself first, am I unsafe or am I just uncomfortable right now? RFN, as said earlier. I mean, right now, that kind of, yeah, Becky, this finger snap thing, right now. You gotta get it so that people understand where they are. And if you're okay in this split second, and you can communicate that to somebody else that is not okay, and you do it without escalating. In other words, you can raise the tone of your voice up to, but not past where that person is, but up to or just below it, and then lower your tone. It tends to de-escalate and brings that down. It works like magic. And I used to do this in my life skills classes and coach training, where people would be arguing, and we had it. One of the skills there was called fighting fairly, and so we would teach people to be able to escalate. If somebody went up here, you come in here, okay, and then you lower your voice and or the angry tone, all of the you de-escalate it that way. You don't do what so many people claim is the correct way, and that is to be professional and not raise the tone of your voice, because so many people have had that done, and professionals put themselves incredibly at risk with some violent offenders where they act hyper professional, and that triggers that person to just escalate because they're done with this person trying to just calmly be down there when they're up there. They feel massively misunderstood.
Well, and just to share really fast, I remember going through this in my model coach, and one of the things that I mistakenly was doing as well, and is extremely important to remember, is your body language.
Yes.
Because I would, someone would hit here and I would come up to match, which is great, and then bring it down. The issue is when I was matching, I was stepping into it or
Oh,
moving into it with my
yeah.
body.
No, no,
Like
no.
there's just that natural tendency to they're here, I'm going to lean in and I'm matching. And I found that is very aggressive, your
Very
body
aggressive.
language, and that will just send things through the roof. And so
Yes.
that was one thing that I learned and had to be very careful with, is it's not just about raising your voice and your tone. It's what is your body doing as well.
Absolutely.
And this cycles back around to intent. So we're talking about safety and comfort. And there's a lot of internal dialogue going on for every single person on this call tonight, I'd imagine, where we're playing with these. I remember a time where I was hearing like emotional safety, and that was a word that people were throwing around like, I can't talk to that person, it's my emotional safety is at risk, or I can't do this because my emotional safety is at risk. And what we're talking about tonight, the distinction between the two, is really a massive thing if we're thinking about like on the day-to-day level, how are we behaving? Blair shared some incredible stories of like legit on the line people racking guns, like in a very, most people will look at that and be like, oh my gosh, you went there, right? They're already in that space of saying that what Blair was, this is my analogy, like if they're hearing that story, it might have been very easy to imprint that that was a very unsafe thing to do. And Blair still had carte blanche on being able to identify for himself, knowing what he knew with the situation, his skills, etc., what the truth of that was.
In the moment. Yep.
Okay, so when we think about emotional safety, I'm curious in the context of the mind models, just to bring it back to where we're talking about tonight, what does it mean to you? What does emotional safety mean to you? Leslie, I'd love to check in with you. You've been looking very ponderous up there in my upper right corner.
What is emotional safety?
Mean to you.
Mean to you.
Emotional safety. Being in a situation that might be difficult, but still being able to have a discussion. This is the hardest I think I've had to think in the past 2 weeks. Recovering from my cold, so I apologize, but I think, when there's when there is an uncomfortable situation, then things are happening, and just being able to understand or be able to continue talking about it without screaming, yelling, ranting, raving.
You know what? One of the things that I found here is some people may need to start with screaming, yelling, ranting, and raving. So long as you say, oh, well, I would say things like, you can scream and yell all you want at me. Are you going to hit me? Like with my students back in the day. And they would say, no, like they'd look at me like, no, no, I don't do that. Okay, great. Well, yell at me all you want. And then the whole thing would be diffused right at that moment. And now we can talk because I took the safety conversation out of it so they couldn't escalate and I wasn't going to escalate. So it's now safe. Safety
And
is there. Discomfort is still there.
you also clarified intent.
Absolutely correct.
Okay, so again, when Blair said earlier on the call, intention is a big deal. So when we're talking about, verbal abuse and somebody's spewing all over you, what do you do with that? You're still part of the equation and you still have your own internal and external world that you get to choose what you want to do. And something similar might be, is it your intent to fill in the blank? Is it your intent
Yeah.
to hurt me? Is it your intent to demean me? Is it your intent to whatever the thing is? Correct me if I'm not tracking, Blair. That works in a very similar situation.
It does. And I wanted to add one other thing because you're almost at the edge of one of the episodes that we talked about a few weeks ago, which was describing feelings.
Mhm.
Because the second I flashed back to one of the guys that was in there for anger management issues, and he got pissed off. And his anger management issues is I'm effing this, effing that, effing angry, effing mad. And that was about it. Those four F, whatever those four words were, it was always, started with F and then the other ones. But that was it. But we got that feeling word dictionary up on the wall. And when I would point to it and say, if you can't say the word, just walk up there right now and put your finger on it or touch a bunch of them that you're feeling right now. And they would. And it was amazing for that. And all of a sudden he was able to say the words get the exact emotions out and shift himself out of a why into a what feeling. That was huge for him. And that was what he was feeling. But what he'd do is he'd punch instead prior. That was his way of describing his feelings, was just hitting. And then he'd feel guilty for hitting. Shannon, you were wiggling your fingers. I don't know if you wanted to get in there or what.
Well, what you're describing is something I actually was really noodling on today because I've been trying to figure a way. One of my nephews has a real challenge describing his feelings. And when something happens, I can tell instantly. Nobody else in the room, they're starting to learn to see, but he'll cover his face and just stand there. And it's dead quiet. And then when I'm very soft and very gently coming up to chat with him, then it goes. And there's no helping it once it goes. And so when you were saying a chart today, I was like, I need to make something to put on the wall with a bunch of different colors and textures because we're obviously not reading it. We're three. But for them to touch, to be able to like, I'm feeling this. I don't know. I'm spitballing. But that was my idea earlier today. So the fact that you were talking about that, like being very physical and in that made me feel happy.
The way that I would handle that is with a 3-year-old, there are different, I actually had a student that was a very good artist, and I have this somewhere, might be in storage, whatever. It was a feeling word poster that had these little squares of like 30 or 40 or 50, 40-ish faces
Okay.
of emotions, just like almost like just the facial expression of happy, sad, mad, like all of those things were there facially. And I know that something like that is out there on the internet. Somebody's shown me that too. So you can get these almost like flashcards. I've seen some teachers with, learning disabled kids, they get flashcards and they say, show me the picture of how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
or point to that one that you feel. That's, pre-verbal, pre-learning language or reading or writing. Just point to the picture.
Okay. That's really cool. I'll have to do some Googling because in my mind I was thinking of making something. And when you were
It's
talking
made.
about the words, I was like, yay, my
Yeah,
brain is on the path.
yes,
But,
it is. Definitely is. And it's definitely just there's stuff out there.
mhm.
So it's just a matter of downloading it.
No, that's worth a
Leslie.
Google. Thank you.
Yep. Hey, you could also probably get ChatGPT Image 2 to make up a poster for you.
I may have already done that for you, Shannon. I'll send it to you.
You did it right now, didn't you? Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. Jeez. Just throw it in the chat here too.
I will.
I seriously need to learn. I have it. I just need to learn to use it better. I have no idea how you guys do that so fast.
Practice.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's
I was gonna say, I think that we're just about to a point where we may need to transition to wrap up. One thing I did want to cover before we did that was discussing, it's on the heels of what we've been talking about, what do you do when you're receiving, on the receiving end of something that's verbally, right, not working for you. So the question I have is what happens when a person believes that they must be emotionally safe to communicate or navigate a situation? What do you think, Brent?
That they have to be emotionally safe in order to do that. And
yeah, to navigate the
I think
situation.
they're stuck. I don't know. It seems to be like it's confusing something, mushing the two or blending the two, and it's something that would keep you stuck because there would be, if that was the case, and then almost every interaction is be unsafe. Potentially a high risk of being unsafe right away before you even get to that. So that was something I was pondering like emotional safety. For the first time I heard that, I was a little confused. I was like, I've never heard that before. And I heard, I was like, what is that? Like, I don't know, my emotions are under attack, as an adult. So like, I don't know, the safety. So for me, safety was always something physical.
Mhm.
And that's what it is. So, as boys, you're riding your bike, doing things that are super risky, and then all of a sudden it's unsafe because you crash, you fall, you break your arm. Oh, well, you know, there you go.
I like the
That
binary,
happens. It's
Brent.
just what's that?
I said I like the binary. On bike, off bike. On bike,
Yep.
safe. Off bike and dirt,
Yeah.
potentially unsafe.
You're like, oh, this is cool. Everybody else is jumping. I'll do it too. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do it. And next thing you know, crashed. Yeah. Like I'm safe, and then I'm not safe. I'm in the air, I'm safe, and then hit the ground, I'm not safe.
Yeah.
So it's like that I'm safe, and then all of a sudden you're not. That's real quick.
Yeah.
That's how I was thinking of one of the things that we were thinking about was the physical, like sports, like combat sports, and or something like high risk, like football. It was like, oh, there's safety in there, and then there's unsafe because there's the contact piece where harm is that is part of the intent is to cause the harm. So you're like, oh, I'm away, I'm safe, and all of a sudden, but the unsafe is real close. So it's like boom, boom, right there. So I was like, well, in boxing or MMA, like how, because you're in a cage, your intent to is cause harm and you're real close to each other. So, but they are trained. So it's like that for them, that safety is like they are safe if they're not contacting each other, and then it's unsafe when they are. So I was like, well, if that was the case, so that would be, but if it was like somebody's not trained, it would be a little bit different. If it's getting, as this risk level is going up, you're like, oh, okay, it's coming real quick, so that would be a little bit, the comfort level would be extremely different. So I was like, they're comfortable in those situations, and then people who aren't trained for that are very uncomfortable in those situations.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fluidity between the two. And so the distinction
Yeah.
and understanding it is super important. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I was
So
like, well, is you're safe, not safe, safe, not safe, safe, not safe. You're like, it happens like so many times in one piece. You're like, oh, okay, wow, I was like, wow. So that's a great thing I was trying to exercise. Like, okay, they're safe, they're not safe, they're safe, not safe. So I think that risk level there, but it's high risk situation.
Mhm.
You got that, and I was thinking that like that discomfort, the higher the discomfort, the higher the risk. It can quickly turn to unsafe, in situations where we're out doing things or things happen. It can quickly turn to that, so that I think that's where that unsafe, where it's unsafe comes because it can quickly turn to that as that risk level goes up and the discomfort goes up with higher risk. It can quickly turn from safe to unsafe.
yeah, and again, that's where the identification of the pieces is so important here.
Mhm.
So a couple things just real quick because we do need to transition to wrap up. Thank you, Brent, for sharing that because again, that was a great example. People like MMA fighters, general pop is just like that's unsafe. You don't get in the cage with somebody who's doing that. And even in those situations, there's rules, there's regulations, there's certain things that are appropriate and not appropriate to kind of navigate that within the context. So context is important. So a couple things that happen when people believe that they must be emotionally safe to communicate or navigate is we've talked about this a bit tonight. It triggers false alarm. Okay, so the brain blurs physical safety and emotional comfort together. It misinterprets what's actually going on, flooding the body with the fight, flight, or freeze, and then we react to that. The second thing is it shuts down learning and communication. So when the brain's flooded with cortisol, when if it's in the fight or flight, it can't actually functionally learn very well. Okay, and so it interferes with you being able to accurately depict what's going on and becomes neurologically difficult to try on new behaviors, listen deeply, or communicate. We call that, we've talked about it before. If you've been listening to the BDE, browning out. It's a symptom of a situation like that. It creates permanent stuck states. So if you're not being able to clearly define the difference between your comfort level and true safety, then you unfortunately get stuck because you're not able to grow. You're stagnant. The video did a great job of like the little circles, right? Right now, comfort shrinks our actual capacity versus understanding, okay, this is uncomfortable, and then being able to expand capacity. And so being able to evaluate and take calculated risks. Again, Brent, calculated risks with your fighters. They're calculating before they step up to the sparring partner. They're able to do that. And it's super important to learn the distinction so that you don't unintentionally habituate needing to be emotionally safe, because that leads to stagnation. There's not growth in that space. It's self-sabotage, wearing a pretty coat at that point. Okay. So with that, I think that we do need to transition into wrap up. Is there anything that anyone would like to add on before we do so? If not,
Just one of the things that I was reflecting on as you were talking there, Becky, was the skills, the mind models themselves. In those situations where I was unconsciously competent with my mind models. And I can recognize me keeping my head out of a brownout in both of those situations. Instead of going into the fear and freaking out and calling this unsafe, I was able to stay with the skill and evaluate first. Like that's the very first thing. And get curious. Well, actually, be curious and then evaluate. And that was huge for me. You know what? I've also heard another quote. Um, the person who survives is often the person who can keep their head while all others around them lose theirs.
yeah, it was actually interesting you say that. I, at one point in time, after learning the mind models and having gone through some significant life stuff, I was given an award saying the most likely to keep their head under pressure. And it is specifically because of the ability to thin slice and nuance this understanding that we're talking about tonight.
Yep.
Because if we can keep it simply that safety is actual physical harm in the moment, everything else is a shade of comfort. And the way that we speak, the words that we use, indicate how we're thinking about things. We can give ourselves a mini timeout and ask the question and put it in the chat. Am I safe or uncomfortable? Am I unsafe or just uncomfortable? However your brain needs to process that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the most powerful questions that I think I've ever learned from you, Blair, and I'm forever grateful that I learned the mind models when I did. So thank you. All right, with
Absolutely.
that, Miss Patty, I think that it's
Yes,
you're
I
up
think
to
we'll
wrap up.
transition. Yep. We do have a practice experience for you for next week. Our practice experience is the next time that you feel triggered, practice asking yourself, can you see the threat? Are you actually unsafe or are you uncomfortable? So that's our practice experience for the week as we go through safety versus comfort. And we'll ask about that next time we meet together on Tuesday. But tonight we're going to do our wrap up. Maya, just a review. We just place on a scale of 1 to 10 the value that you took home tonight and one takeaway. So let's see.
Maya's ready to go.
Oh,
She
Maya's
was-
ready to go?
Yeah, she
I
was
thought you were, I thought you were already calling on me.
Oh, no, sweet. You can go ahead if you wish to. I was
Okay.
going to sandwich you so you could hear some other people go.
Okay, we can do that
But-
too. We can do that too.
Now,
Let
are
me
you
ask
good
you
to
a
go? You
question.
can go.
I was
I-
going to say, if
I
you're
was-
comfortable in this situation, then go for it.
Sure. Okay, so the value I would say is an 8. I think I'm having a little bit of an experience that I don't know enough, and or like there's more for me to discover or learn. And I do like this and I want to check out more on YouTube. I didn't have a chance to do it this last week. And I have a course that starts next Tuesday, so I probably won't be able to come back for a few months. We might have some weeks where we don't have the course and then I can pop back in. So, but I will be checking it out on YouTube and see.
Great. Well, we've enjoyed having you here, and you are very welcome whenever it works for you to come back.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Leslie, would you like to participate in wrap up tonight?
Certainly, thank you. An 8 for me. This is a fascinating discussion this evening. I didn't make a lot of notes, but I listened a lot. And very, very positive. I think I'm going to watch that video, the beginning of the video, a couple of more times.
Yeah, I thought the
Uh,
beginning video was incredible.
It was a great one.
It really
I
was.
Yeah, uh, I'm just not up to par myself.
Hmm.
So, but again, thank you. And it was great again to join in.
Well, welcome back. We've missed you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Michael, are you available to participate? Would you like to participate in wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. I am going to give it a 9.5. Um, I've become comfortable working in unsafe environments and security as a bouncer for the past 30 years. So I look forward to going back and watching the replay and thinking about how I can use it in my coaching. Key takeaway for me is the fear and leading to future events. Am I unsafe or am I just uncomfortable? In thinking about relating this to my future clients, talking about 12-hour walks and trying a carnivore diet for 30 or 90 days.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Brent, would you like to participate in wrap up?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just find this one interesting because it is easy to get the two mixed up
Yeah.
for me, especially when it's like the higher the risk, the more uncomfortable that it is, then it's easy to mix up the safety and the comfort piece. For me, but if it's lower, it's like I can easily distinguish between the two. But then that's like as soon as that risk goes up, that where that it can quickly turn, that gets that easy to mix up the two, but still being able to distinguish those. Like, hey, this is what's really going on. It's just very uncomfortable, high risk, still safe, but then evaluate what is going on and whether you want to still be there or continue on what's going if you want to keep going. So that's that's there. That's and that was the other one was the being able to see it, and then how quickly, like in those situations, like they're very physical situations, like the combat sports or even football. It's like there's safe moments, and then there's like football. The idea is when you hit somebody, you're putting yourself in harm's way. You're throwing your body at somebody. It's gonna hurt. So, but you're out there, you're choosing to do so in those situations. So the circumstances are different. It's not just it happens, but you're intentionally going to do that. Put yourself in that harmful situation.
Yeah, it's
So
like context that Becky was talking about.
yeah, yeah. So throwing that in there as well is something I picked up, is that the context of the situation and how's it and what's going on. So I give it a 9 for me tonight.
Thank you, Brent. Shannon, would you like to participate in wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I think the reminder about future events appearing real, we haven't talked about that one in quite a while. And I think that one is just an excellent refresher because it is a habit. I'm a very strategic thinker. And so I look ahead to try and avoid certain things. Um, but I think that when things are in motion, sometimes just hitting the pause button and letting them play out and realizing that, you know, the things in my head, maybe yes, maybe no, but it's nothing we can't deal with. We just need to step back and let it happen. Um, in the specific things I'm thinking about, I think that the emotional safety part of the conversation is really interesting. I need to noodle on that some more. I understand parts of it, I think, but there's a more nuanced and like practical understanding of it that I'd like to deepen because I think that one has a lot of relevance. I think that it definitely does a good job of blurring our brain and you know, I can see it on paper, but I think practicing doing it in real time would be a minute. Um, and I think that understanding specifically for me, like the way you asked that question was really effective. What does it mean to me? And to take some time to frame that, like how my initial like response is to it versus like, okay, I know this, and to tease that out. I think that would be really good for me to do personally. the content around clarifying intent, rules of engagement, and context, that was a really meaningful part of the conversation for me, as well as just the deep importance of keeping your head with you. Take some deep breaths and keep a level head, and that's just good life advice. So it's a 8.5 for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Tim, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Patty. For me tonight, this is a 9. I really enjoy safety versus comfort. It's one of those that has helped me in many different situations over the last few years. Becky and I have been able to do some pretty incredible things. Speaking from stage, being able to go back to the canyon within just a few weeks of losing our girls in that canyon, of being able to run the Grand Canyon, Whitewater, after that experience. And it was safety versus comfort behind the whole thing. It was us asking, staying very present in the moment. Are we safe or are we uncomfortable? Are we safe or are we uncomfortable? And it's moment to moment to moment. And I actually loved what you said, Brent, when you bringing up the MMA fighters, the football players, those kinds of things. I mean, in one moment they're uncomfortable, the next minute they're unsafe, like it that quick, how, and so just being aware of the levels of discomfort, and if you're putting yourself in, if it's high discomfort, how quickly it could switch to a safety concern. And then my other big thing that I loved tonight was Blair talking about, when he was in the car driving home, and that's when everything kicked in. It's when we have that moment to project everything into the future, and our mind runs away with us, and that's what most people I think end up dealing with in that fight, flight, or freeze situation. And so this is really powerful if we can be aware of it and use it in the moment that we're in it. So just some big takeaways for me tonight. So
Thank you, Tim. Becky, would you like to participate in wrap up?
I will participate in wrap up. 9.6. Safety and comfort. Safety versus comfort. Understanding the distinction is, next to curiosity for me, is probably the second superpower mind model.
Yeah.
Because of how it allows me to understand more accurately my life. So, we're talking about threats or the perception, right? Our perceptions of risk. Those can be varied based on our historical experience. And very often they're rooted in story. And it's a bounce between history was this, so the future is going to be this. And we're missing the actual evidence of what's actually happening right now to be able to identify what is it in this moment at 7:25 for us p.m. I may be feeling something that seems on a Richter scale of discomfort or fear or danger, like at a level 10, but the evidence is more like a meandering 1.5. Okay. So the ability to thin slice that and understand ourselves, our world, and how and where we can engage, back to our conversation about if you're with somebody and things aren't going the way that is optimal. Maybe they're, saying things that you perceive are abusive. Being able to check in and ask the question, is it your intent to do this? Being able to address the distinction between the two for yourself and others accesses so much more possibility and growth. And that's really a powerful thing. So that's for me tonight.
Thank you. Blair, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Absolutely. Hey, Patty, were you going to go jump in here?
Yep, I was going to follow you.
Okay, great. Just checking in. Anyway, it was really it was great for me on a couple of levels. So 9.5. I haven't told those stories, and I wasn't thinking about either of my stories I shared before coming on tonight. But I mentioned it earlier how unconsciously competent I was with the mind model safety versus comfort, and how just having it kick into gear quickly let me keep my head. That was extremely helpful in those situations, being able to make those distinctions. Plus, if, you know, all the other mind models jump in at different points in time, but that one, yeah. Becky said it's like one of her superpowers, so I get it. It's being able to keep your head when others can't. And being able to literally feel like you're okay when normally people would say, how can you be okay there? I mean, it's so much of life is how you are able to act and, more importantly, react to the situations as they present themselves. And that's the critical piece. If you can make choice where other people can't, they can just react because that's all they've ever done. That's powerful. And the other piece is this flies in the face of so many things that they teach in psychology. It's the absolute opposite. Like I said, matching somebody's anger just below and bringing it down, pacing and leading down works like 90+% of the time. Well, over 90%, almost 100%. Let's put it this way. I've yet to have it not work for me. I'm leaving that opening as a possibility, but it's on my skill of being able to recognize where somebody else is and being able to come in underneath them, but still in their range where they perceive that I understand. And that's the critical value that you have to find. And when you do that and you just pace them down, they come down every time. And being calm doesn't necessarily work. Doesn't necessarily not work, but it doesn't necessarily work as well. Anyway, these are one of many skill sets I've found and tested in the real world over my 35 years at Life Skills College. So it's amazing what you can accomplish, never losing one student in 35 years. So anyway, that was it for me. It's been amazing. Thank you, Maya, for coming. I really appreciate it. I wish you well in your course. And I look forward to you hopefully coming back afterwards. I very much have enjoyed you being on. You opened your mic, so what would you like to say?
I just want to say thank you. Yeah, I've enjoyed it as well. So I'll try to pop in the times that I don't have the course during
I
this.
really appreciated you here. Been a
Thank you.
great addition.
Okay, so for me, this has been a 9 for me tonight. I think it's a topic that's always worth clarifying and always worth challenging myself with, to look at how is this impacting my life and what am I labeling for myself. I remember Blair challenging me one time with the idea that nobody can hurt my feelings without my permission. And that is a great deal of that emotional safety issue, that other people's thoughts and opinions are theirs, they're not mine. And I can accept myself and I can accept them without taking away anything from either one of us. And that's powerful. That gets into that power of choice. That gets into that ability to self-regulate in highly emotionally charged situations. So I find this topic to be really pivotal. The other thing is that the quote that Blair was having about keeping everybody losing their minds and you keeping yours, I believe is Rudyard Kipling's poem, If you want to look that up online. It's the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Becky. You can take us out, please.
All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes. Today's conversation is one that is worth repeating, going back over, and slowing down. Because again, these are nuances here in how we think and we behave and where it shows up. Just a couple reminders. We do this as an experience here on the BDE. We do a lot of prep work, but not everything that we prep makes it into the episode. So if you want the additional pieces that we didn't maybe cover tonight, highly recommend that you get your hands on the BDE Insider Notes, episode 318 to current. And again, we're on 393. So there's a wealth of information there that will allow you to review, recap. The videos that you saw at the beginning of this are also included. And so I highly recommend that you invest in yourself with this to have a more in-depth look at what mind models are, and then make sure that you join us every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 Eastern, because that's when you get to actually practice it. There's a difference between understanding the information and like, okay, I read it, that concept makes sense, and application in your life and being able to see how and where it shows up. So definitely recommend that you invest in the insider notes and then join us on Tuesday so that you can practice it in real time. Also, Blair has 2 books on Amazon right now, Ultimate Mind Hacking and Phobia Freedom Formula. Again, great works that allow you to see different applications of the mind models. They are identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. That means that you can apply them in any and all situations that you may find. There's nothing else like it. Most things are kind of pseudo-siloed, where it applies in one place but not another. That is not the case with mind models. So recommend that you check out those books. You can go to Amazon and search them by title or by Blair's name, and they'll pop up. And then the Mind Mastery magazine is a new resource that Blair's put together. For those of you that were on tonight, I dropped it in the chat. And for those, Blair, how would people get their hands on that if they're out on YouTube?
Actually join us. So I thought I really wanted some reason to cause people to come and get on, and the magazine is free to everybody who's on the call.
Beautiful. Okay, so you guys want the magazine? Highly recommend that you grab it. Go to rewiringthemind.com/weekly webinar, sign up to join us, then gonna come up on a Tuesday night. We'll drop the link for you and you can grab that resource complimentary of Blair. Thank you guys again for investing with yourselves on a Tuesday night. Again, this is the only place that I have come across in over 7, almost 8 years now, where you can gather with like-minded individuals who are looking to grow their skill set and become more effective in their lives. That is getting down to the root of how we behave and working with our biology. So highly recommend that you join us. We'll see you next Tuesday, again, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 Eastern. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.